The upgrade illusion. Jordan didn't sleep well the night before, not because anything was wrong exactly, not because of stress or sickness or a bad dream. He didn't sleep well because he'd watched the keynote. It was a Tuesday in September, and he'd streamed it on his laptop the way he always did. Half working, half watching, one eye on the slides while pretending to finish a report. His coffee went cold, his deadline slipped. And somewhere around the 40-minute mark, when the presenter held up the new model and said the words, "the most advanced camera system we've ever built," something shifted. Not in the phone, in Jordan. He set down his coffee, looked over at his current device on the desk, and for the first time in months, he actually looked at it. Really looked at it. And what he felt, this is the part that matters, was a low, quiet hum of disappointment. Like something was missing. Like it was somehow less than it had been an hour ago. The phone hadn't changed. Same camera, same screen, same speed. He'd bought it 22 months earlier, and it still did everything he needed it to do. Texts, calls, photos of his dog, navigation to places he'd been 100 times. Nothing about that device had deteriorated in the 60 minutes he'd spent watching a presentation. And yet, there it was. That feeling. That vague gnawing sense that what he had was no longer quite enough. He put his name on the pre-order list that night. $1,049. For a phone that was, by the manufacturer's own benchmarks, about 9% faster than the one sitting on his desk. I'm Bob. And I have been Jordan. Most of us have been Jordan, and I want to spend the next little while showing you exactly what happened to him and to us, because once you can see the mechanism, you genuinely cannot unsee it. And I think that's worth something. This isn't a video about being anti-technology. I like new things. I get excited at product announcements. I understand the appeal. This is a video about a very specific, very deliberate system that has been engineered, and I use that word carefully, to make you feel dissatisfied with something that works perfectly well, on a schedule for profit. That's the upgrade illusion. And the first thing to understand is that the illusion isn't accidental. So let me show you how it works. The first mechanism is the one nobody likes to talk about because it involves admitting something uncomfortable. Your phone is almost certainly slower than it used to be, and that didn't happen by accident. In 2017, Apple acknowledged quietly, buried in a support document, after a developer named John Poole published data that made it impossible to deny, that they had been intentionally throttling the processor performance of older iPhone models through software updates. The official reason was battery health management. When lithium-ion batteries age, they can't deliver peak power without voltage spikes, and the throttling was meant to prevent unexpected shutdowns. There's some truth in that, but here's the thing. They didn't tell anyone. You didn't get a notification that said, "Hey, your phone is now running at 70% of its original speed to compensate for battery degradation." You just noticed, slowly, that things felt a little sluggish. Apps took a beat longer to open. The camera was slightly slower. And you thought, I think I need a new phone. What you actually needed was an $89 battery replacement. And look, I want to be fair here. Battery management is a real engineering problem. Voltage spikes are real. Unexpected shutdowns are genuinely annoying, but the decision to handle that problem silently, to adjust your device's performance without your knowledge or consent, rather than saying, your battery needs replacing, here's how. That's not an engineering decision. That's a business decision. And it's a business decision that happens to funnel millions of people toward new hardware purchases every single year. The fact that a class action settlement followed and that Apple subsequently introduced battery health indicators and discounted replacements tells you everything you need to know about how that decision was originally weighed. The gap between those two numbers is not an accident. It's a design philosophy. Phones are increasingly built in ways that make self-repair difficult, expensive, or functionally impossible. Batteries glued to frames, screens bonded to components, proprietary screws, software that flags non-official replacement parts. The right to repair movement exists precisely because this pattern is systematic, not incidental. When replacing a battery costs $89 but feels confusing and risky, and a shiny new model costs $1,149 but feels exciting and simple, The psychological path of least resistance is obvious, and the companies know exactly where that path leads. This is mechanism number one: software and hardware working in tandem to make a functional device feel inadequate before it actually is. The device doesn't fail, your perception of it is adjusted. Those are two very different things, and once you understand that distinction, a lot of other things start to make sense. Because here's the deeper layer, and this is where it gets genuinely elegant in a kind of infuriating way. The software obsolescence doesn't work alone. It has a partner, and that partner is September. Think about what the annual product cycle actually is, psychologically. Every 12 months, like clockwork, there is a globally televised event being watched by millions, whose entire purpose is to make the thing in your pocket feel outdated. Not broken, not deficient in any objective sense, outdated. The language is always comparative, the best we've ever made. A massive leap forward, the most significant upgrade in years. And notice what that language does. It's not describing the new device in isolation. It's describing it in relation to what you already own. Every adjective in a keynote is quietly a criticism of last year's model, of your model. This is the annual release cycle as psychological operation, and I mean that in the most precise, non-hyperbolic sense. The goal isn't just to sell you a product, the goal is to alter your relationship to a product you already paid for. To install, through 45 minutes of lighting and music and rehearsed enthusiasm, a feeling of lack where none existed yesterday morning. They are not selling you a phone. They are selling you a new relationship to your existing phone. And the new relationship is insufficient. Jordan didn't feel dissatisfied because his phone degraded. He felt dissatisfied because he watched a highly produced event that was specifically designed to make him feel that way. Manufactured dissatisfaction, not a side effect. The product. And look, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, but the new camera really is better. And that's a fair pushback. The technology does improve. I'm not disputing that. What I want to show you is what better actually means in practice, because this is where the math gets interesting. Researchers at Wayne State University ran blind tests, genuinely blind, no brand indicators, asking participants to evaluate photo quality from multiple generations of smartphone cameras side by side. The finding, which has been replicated in various forms, was that consumers could not reliably distinguish between camera generations in real-world use. Not between last year's flagship and this year's, not between a 2-year-old model and a new one. The improvements are real in a laboratory, in your life photographing your kid's birthday or your dinner or your dog or a sunset. They are, for most people, most of the time, functionally imperceptible. And that matters, because the camera is always the centerpiece of the upgrade argument. It's the hook in the keynote. The slow motion video of someone catching a baseball. The portrait mode that blurs the background in a way that looks exactly like last year's portrait mode blurring the background. The improvements are real, and the improvements are marginal, and those two things are both true simultaneously. So, the mechanism is clear: software obsolescence, hardware designed against repairability, and an annual psychological event engineered to make you feel it. Now let me show you what this costs, not emotionally, financially, because this is the number that genuinely changed how I think about all of this. Take two people, same income, same basic tech needs, same starting point. Person A upgrades on the marketing cycle. Every 2 years, like the industry designs for, spending roughly $1,100 each time across phone, laptop, tablet, earbuds. Person B upgrades only when devices actually fail to meet their genuine functional needs, stretching each device to 4 or 5 years, buying refurbished when possible. Over 30 years, which is not a long time, that's just from your late 20s to your late 50s. Person A spends roughly $84,000 on consumer electronics. Person B spends roughly $27,000. That's a $57,000 gap in direct spending. But that's not the real number. If you take that difference and model it as invested conservatively at average market returns, the opportunity cost is closer to $214,000. That's not a rounding error. That's a down payment on a house. That's a decade of retirement contributions. That's 214,000 reasons to ask a very simple question before your next upgrade. What does my current device actually fail to do for me today? Not compared to the new one. Not theoretically. Specifically. Today. What task do you attempt and cannot complete because of the hardware you own? Write it down. Be specific. Most people, when they do this honestly, come up with nothing. Or something that an $89 battery replacement would solve. And if you're finding this useful, if you're already mentally replaying the last time you pre-ordered something at midnight, stay with me, because it gets another layer deeper. There's a dimension to this that's bigger than money. 50 million metric tons. That's the annual global volume of electronic waste. 50 million metric tons of phones, laptops, tablets, earbuds, much of it functional, much of it just replaced by a slightly shinier version before it failed, ending up in landfills, many of them in countries that didn't generate the waste. The average smartphone contains cobalt, lithium, rare earth elements extracted at significant environmental and human cost. And the useful life of most of these devices, the functional lifespan before actual failure, is substantially longer than the upgrade cycle the industry pushes. We are not discarding devices that are broken. We are discarding devices that feel broken, because we were made to feel that. The person with the 4-year-old phone isn't behind. They're being told they're behind. And those are genuinely different things. One is a fact about capability. The other is a manufactured social feeling distributed at scale by companies with billion-dollar marketing budgets. There's even a phrase for it. Tech shame, that's entered the cultural vocabulary. The slight wince when you pull out an older model in a meeting. The reflexive, apologetic comment, yeah, I know, I need to upgrade. You don't. You were made to feel like you do. Holding on to a working device is simultaneously a financial decision, an environmental act, and a quiet, completely personal refusal to subscribe to manufactured dissatisfaction. That's worth naming, so. What do you actually do? Because awareness without action is just frustration. Here are 4 things that are specific and concrete and available to you right now. First, define your actual use case. Sit down and list what you actually do with your device every day, not what the new one could theoretically do, what you do. Most use cases from calls, texts, photos, navigation, streaming, email have been fully met by mid-range hardware for years. Measure your device against your real daily tasks, and you'll find most devices pass easily. Second, extend your device's life through maintenance. Battery replacement is the single highest leverage intervention. An aging battery is responsible for the majority of perceived slowness in older devices. A battery replacement at an authorized repair shop or through services like iFixit typically costs between $60 and $100 and extends useful device life by 2 to 3 years. Add a factory reset if you've had the device for several years. It clears accumulated software debt and often makes a 3-year-old phone feel close to new. These are not workarounds. They are rational maintenance decisions like changing your car's oil instead of buying a new car. Third, when you genuinely do need to replace a device, buy refurbished. Platforms like Backmarket, Gazelle, and Apple Certified Refurbished sell devices that are functionally equivalent to new at 30 to 50% less. The price delta on a refurbished 2-year-old flagship versus the current model is often $400 to $500. Over a decade, that gap compounds significantly. The devices are the same hardware. The experience is the same. The only thing missing is the box and the new phone smell, which is not actually worth $400. Fourth, set upgrade intervals based on actual device failure, not marketing cycles. Real performance benchmarks by independent reviewers show that flagship smartphones retain over 90% of their functional capability at 3 years and around 75 to 80% at 5 years for typical use cases. Laptops have similar curves. The industry's 2-year cycle is a business model. It's not a technological necessity. Build your own upgrade schedule around the question: what has actually stopped working? Not what could be better. What has actually stopped? I want to go back to Jordan for a second. He spent $1,049 that September, got his new phone, loved it for about 3 weeks, that honeymoon period where everything feels crisp and fast and new. And then, somewhere around week 4, it just became his phone. the thing in his pocket, the tool he used to text his mom and take photos of his dog and navigate to restaurants he'd been to before, exactly like the last one. Except $1,000 lighter, and with a camera that took photos which were, in blind tests, indistinguishable from the photos the previous one took. He's not stupid. He's not weak. He was targeted. By an industry that employs some of the best designers, psychologists, and marketers on earth, whose job it is to make the thing you already own feel like a quiet failure. Every keynote is an expertly produced piece of emotional manipulation. And manipulation isn't too strong a word. It's the precise one. You are being made to feel a thing that isn't true on purpose for profit. The upgrade illusion isn't a metaphor, it's a system. Software throttling that makes old hardware feel slow. Hardware design that makes repair expensive and replacement feel easier. An annual psychological event calibrated to install dissatisfaction in the gap between what you have and what you could have. And a social current that frames the person holding onto a 4-year-old phone as somehow behind, when the truth, the actual mathematical truth, is that they're $200,000 ahead. Once you see the mechanism, you watch every product announcement differently. You hear the language differently. The most significant upgrade in years translates to, your current device is now being classified as insufficient. Please feel inadequate on a schedule that aligns with our quarterly projections. You don't have to be cynical. You don't have to hate the technology. You just have to be awake to what the moment is actually designed to do to you. That's all. Just awake. Manufactured dissatisfaction is the product. The phone is just the delivery mechanism. Jordan's dog, by the way, looks exactly the same in every photo, regardless of what camera took it. Happy, unbothered, completely unaware that his owner's device is technically last year's model. Some of us could learn something from that dog. Actually, I'm genuinely curious. Drop a comment and tell me, what's the longest you've ever kept a phone or laptop before replacing it, and what finally made you pull the trigger? Was it actual failure or was it a feeling? I want to know. Because I think more of us are waking up to this than the industry would like. The next keynote is coming. September always does, and now you'll know exactly what it's trying to do to you before the lights even come up. See you there.